political journalist Zoe Grunwald and education and politics correspondent for The Scotsman, Katrina Stewart. So welcome back to both of you. And we've dealt with quite a few of the front page main stories. So looking at some of the other bits and pieces around, Katrina, you've picked out the call by Kemi Badenoch to consider a ban on the burqa that's made the front page of The Telegraph.
Yes, indeed. And it is exactly as you've just outlined. Kemi Badenoch is calling for banning the burqa in the UK. But if you read down the piece, she then goes on to point out that France has a burqa ban in place currently, and she says they have worse problems with integration than us. So on one hand, she's suggesting that this happens. On the other hand, she's completely undermining her own point. And this, of course, is some political manoeuvring because they are worried about the rise of reform and they are trying to scoop back some of the voters that have deserted them for the other party. And I think that's what's sort of fundamental to this, is that reform is just sucking up the oxygen of debate. This is essentially a pointless story. It's a plan that's not going to go anywhere. It's making a front page headline, but it is all about reform. And if we look again at Scotland, the campaign so far for Holyrood has been so diverted from reform, but reform's campaign for Holyrood is a complete clown show so far. And it is just taking up so much space and diverting from actual narratives that need to be had and actual policies and conversations that need to be had. And I think this all feeds into the same issue.
Although a lot of their supporters say these are the conversations that they want the political parties to be having.
Sure, but I mean, again, Kemi Badenoch goes on in this piece to say this isn't going to make any difference at all. Here is a list of other issues that we should be considering. And that's fine, that is reasonable, but these are just sort of superficial sticking plasters. And I don't actually think that banning the burqa is going to make any kind of difference to cost of living, to energy prices, to any actual substantive issues that we need to be talking about.
Do you agree with that, Zoe? Do you think this is a political move by them? Do you think this is partly about putting pressure on Labour to kind of force them to stick up for the burqa? What do you think this is about?
I think it's absolutely trying to kind of meet reform on their own turf, you know, trying to seem tough on those issues that reform talk about. I also think it's probably trying to put a bit of pressure on Keir Starmer, you know, following the Gorton and Denton by-election. There have been lots of accusations from the right that Labour is kind of sucking up to the Muslim vote, as they so put it, even though the allegations of family voting, particularly in this instance, were found not to be true. There's a really interesting bit in here where Zia Youssef, who is Reform's Home Affairs spokesman, is talking about how his party believes they should ban face coverings. And he says, it would be very disconcerting if you were just buying something from Tesco and somebody was scanning your stuff and you cannot make eye contact with someone. I mean, is that a reason, a hypothetical situation that might make you feel uncomfortable in Tesco? Is that a reason for curtailing people's religious fundamental freedoms? It just feels like so much of what they talk about are just pointless culture war things. And really, you're absolutely right. Cost of living, energy bills, public services, that's what people care about. This is just culture warring because they can't come up with any other solutions.
I much prefer to scan my own stuff when I go to the supermarket these days, much more quick and efficient.
Yeah.
Let's turn our attention, Zoe, to the Star. This is the story that we've mentioned already on Sky News this morning about the Afghan asylum seeker who abducted a 12-year-old girl and filmed as he raped her. He was jailed yesterday. I mean, they've got a picture of Ahmad Mulakil with the word disgusting underneath it, and there really isn't any other word to describe him, is there?
Yeah, no, it's a abhorrent case, and as we may remember, this triggered, when this case originally went to court, it triggered some large-scale protests in Warwickshire last year. He has been told he's going to serve 15 years in prison and an extra 12 months on licence. Obviously, some people will say with the severity of the attack, that's not enough. There are also going to be lots of people who, because obviously he came over on a small boat, this is likely to reinvigorate that conversation around you know, what we do with people who come over on small boats. If they serve a crime here, should they be deported? What do we do? But, you know, in this case, it is good that justice is being dealt. I think, you know, 15 years in prison is kind of touching the sides of what many people would want to see for this man. But, you know, we should point out how difficult it is often in the justice system to get any kind of justice for victims of sexual violence specifically. I mean, it's going to offer little comfort, I'm sure, to the victim and her family, but and obviously it's going to probably reopen that debate around what what we do with people in this country when they've committed crimes. So it's probably not going to go away, but, you know, at least justice has been dealt.
Yeah, victims still suffering as their subheading there, which you can imagine.
It's a horrific
really
crime.
horrible case. Let's move on to a story that we were discussing a lot yesterday, and there's more in the papers today from The Guardian, and this is about the government issuing new guidance on screen time for under fives, and this is something that you know a little bit about as well, don't you, Matt?
Well, my wife is a doctor of psychology, developmental psychologist as it happens, has been part of a large group of people giving some of that advice to the government, and it's all down to how children's brains develop and the rapid pace of content that they're now consuming. You think 20 years ago it was Teletubbies, and these were these were programs that were designed for young brains. Now it is fast-paced stuff online that is overwhelming and can lead to, potentially, there are certainly connections there, the research has found, more research needs to be done, behavioural challenges later on in life, because it is just more. It's information overload for young brains, effectively, Kat.
Yes, and some of the stats in this piece are alarming. 98% of children are watching screens on a daily basis by the age of 2, which is astonishing. And it's not just about the screens themselves, it's about the knock-on effect of that. So if children are looking at screens, they're not reading, crucially, they're not being read to, they're also not going outdoors and playing. And there's mention in this that children of that age should have 3 hours of play each day, and they're just not meeting those targets. And I think it's really refreshing that we're having this conversation about this age group.
Yeah.
Because so far, the pressure on tech companies has been about older young people, so teenagers, and the relentless scroll and the harms of social media. And actually, so much developmentally happens before the age of 5. It is such a crucial age range.
Absolutely.
And nothing's being happening here. And it's saying a quarter of parents of 3 to 5-year-olds struggle to control their child's screen time. And I think that's really crucial. Why are parents struggling so much? What supports can be put in place there? And how do we reintroduce the wonders of reading and having actual books?
With parents, it's hard. Sometimes you want to pacify with the screen. It's easy, it's there. But maybe that's causing some of the problems, and it can then spiral. And against the backdrop of that court case in LA this week against Google and Meta, it seems that attitudes towards using these screens and using social media are changing a little bit.
And do you think we've only got 30 seconds, I've just been told, so very quickly. Good news that the government puts out guidance? Is it the government's business to do that?
I think so. I think, you know, from a public health perspective, it's always useful, but a lot of parents will be saying, actually, I need a bit more than just guidance here. We need to come down on tech companies. We need them to be taking their responsibilities seriously as well.
Yeah, beautifully done. And we've got 10 seconds to spare. Ideal. Zoe and Kat, thanks very much indeed. And you'll be both back in the next hour for another little look. And we're going to talk about the escapibara next time.
Yes, we are.
Still on the run.
Yeah, still on the run.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?